Imagine walking onto a car lot with a strict $30,000 budget. You think you're going to be pointed toward, a bare bones manual crank window kind of hatchback.
Right, the absolute entry-level stuff.
Exactly. But instead, the dealer points you toward a brand new, highly connected electric vehicle.
Which makes no sense on the surface.
None at all. And meanwhile, the people fighting over that basic commuter hatchback are actually driving its price up to the moon. So welcome to Auto News Talk, where the basic logic of buying a car has completely inverted.
It really is a market defined entirely by paradoxes.
Yeah.
And, to understand what you're walking into as a consumer, you have to look at the machinery behind the curtain.
Yeah, the whole picture.
Right, because an isolated headline about, say, a recall or a sudden price hike on a specific family SUV, it doesn't tell the whole story. Every single piece of this ecosystem is connected. I mean, how a vehicle is designed in the boardroom, how a dealership extracts profit, how replacement parts are sourced globally.
And all of those connections ultimately run straight to your wallet.
Exactly. Yeah. Straight to the consumer.
So we're going to map out that entire ecosystem for you. Rather than just staring at the sticker price in disbelief, we are going to trace the actual lifespan of the modern car market.
Step by step.
Yep. We'll start at the factory floor, see how these staggering manufacturing costs get passed directly to the dealer lot, watch how dealerships are fundamentally changing their business models just to survive the chaos. And then finally, we'll look at the billion-dollar gold rush happening when your expensive machine inevitably needs a repair.
Let's start where the metal actually gets stamped, because the pressure on automakers right now is immense. I mean, they are trying to balance vast, necessary improvements in new software against the crushing financial weight of legacy hardware mistakes.
Yeah, I was reading a breakdown of Ford's quality turnaround efforts, and it perfectly captures this chaos. The data shows they've actually jumped to the #1 mass market brand in J.D. Power's initial quality study.
Which is a huge win for them.
Oh, massive. And the CEO, Jim Farley, is talking about refreshing their entire North American lineup within just a few years. They're seeing undeniable gains in their software and their infotainment systems.
And you have to look at the resources they're deploying to get there. They've hired 350 specialized tech experts.
Wow, 350.
Yeah. And they're actively blending cutting-edge artificial intelligence tools with the hard-earned physical manufacturing experience of returning veteran engineers.
That's an interesting mix.
It is. And by optimizing those two worlds, they've managed to cut their warranty and materials costs by a staggering $1.5 billion.
Okay, I want to stop you there because I looked at that same turnaround report, and the math is really hard to wrap my head around. On one hand, you have $1.5 billion in savings and a #1 ranking for initial quality.
Right.
But the report also details that Ford is currently navigating 53 separate recalls. And those recalls cover more than 12 million vehicles.
Yeah, it's a massive number.
And that's actually an improvement, because they had a previous record of 153 recalls. So winning an initial quality award while having 12 million vehicles, it's like getting an A on your final exam, but you're still carrying a D- from last semester.
That is the perfect way to put it.
Like, how does a company even move forward with that kind of baggage?
Well, it's the ultimate tightrope walk. What you have to understand is the difference between software wins and hardware legacy. Those initial quality awards, they're largely driven by fixing glitchy screens and software bugs.
Things consumers notice right away.
Exactly. Things in the first 90 days. But the 12 million recalled vehicles represent years of mechanical and legacy platform issues.
Oh, I see.
So the implication here is that launching new vehicles flawlessly is no longer just a nice goal. It is an absolute existential requirement. They have to stop the financial bleeding of these massive mechanical defects to survive the transition to software-defined vehicles.
But there's a massive open question hanging over all of this. What that turnaround data doesn't answer is whether these impressive initial quality wins, the lack of software crashes in the first 3 months, will actually translate to long-term, 10-year mechanical dependability.
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. And while legacy automakers fight those internal quality battles, the wider industry is in a state of rapid strategic flux.
Oh, completely.
We're seeing automakers aggressively hedging their bets across every possible powertrain, because nobody wants to be caught flat-footed.
The sheer panic is obvious if you scroll through Car and Driver's News Hub tracking the latest industry updates. The strategic pivots give you whiplash.
They really do.
Like you've got Polestar entirely exiting the U.S. market because of new regulations targeting connected car data.
Just pulling out entirely.
Yeah, and then you have Porsche pivoting to build fewer cars to artificially protect their high-profit margins while explicitly promising their customer base that the iconic 911 will remain a non-EV.
It shows a profound lack of consensus on the future. I mean, we're seeing new technology regulations dropping the requirement for physical brake pedals in fully driverless cars.
Which is a massive leap toward pure autonomy.
Exactly. Yet in the exact same news cycle, brands are leaning incredibly hard into retro nostalgia. We're seeing the return of models like a hybrid Honda Element and the Mitsubishi Montero.
It's a total scramble. And speaking of that scramble, Car and Driver highlighted a wild pricing anomaly that captures this perfectly. Because of massive inventory gluts and a sudden cooling of early adopter EV demand, you could actually buy a sleek, high-tech Polestar EV for less money than a basic Chevrolet Bolt.
Think about the mechanics behind that for a second.
Yeah.
The Polestar was positioned as a premium luxury competitor,
Right.
And the Bolt is just your entry-level commuter. The fact that their price is inverted implies that automakers aren't confidently committing to one single path anymore.
Yeah.
They built way too many premium EVs, the demand shifted, and now they're scrambling to survive a minefield of unpredictable regulations and incredibly fickle consumer demands.
They're just slashing prices to move the metal.
Precisely.
But what those industry updates leave completely unanswered is the macro environment. Like, how will looming shifts in trade policy, constant threats to North American trade agreements, for instance, ultimately impact the bottom line cost of producing all these different vehicles?
Because it's not happening in a vacuum.
Right. All this strategic scrambling, the $1.5 billion in quality control savings, the massive recall costs, that money doesn't just disappear into the ether.
It absolutely does not. Every dollar spent fixing a recall or pivoting a supply chain gets baked directly into the MSRP. It bleeds straight into the sticker price the moment that car hits the dealer lot.
Which explains why when a buyer actually walks onto a lot, they're getting hit with numbers that don't even look real.
It's sticker shock on a whole new level.
Yeah, the latest data on new vehicle asking prices shows that affordability isn't just strained, it's fundamentally broken. We're looking at a market dynamic where the desperate pursuit of budget cars is actually what's driving up budget car prices.
The raw data is incredibly sobering. The average new vehicle asking price hit a record $51,974.
Almost 52 grand.
Yeah. But the truly revealing metric is where the inflation is concentrated. Compact sedans, which have historically been the reliable entry-level option for a first-time buyer, they saw a massive 12% price jump.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the luxury segments in convertibles actually saw their asking prices drop. And the Hyundai IONIQ 5 electric vehicle dropped by a staggering 17%.
That is wild. And if you want a specific, localized example of this madness, automotive news data cited by the Drive notes that the asking price for the Kia Telluride surged by 16.4%.
Which is huge.
And that isn't a luxury sports car. That is a three-row family SUV. It just shows an immense, unyielding demand for specific internal combustion and hybrid family haulers.
The mechanism driving this is substitution. I mean, the traditional middle-class buyer is being systematically squeezed out of the mid-tier market by those $52,000 averages.
So they have to alter their behavior.
Exactly. They move down market to find something, anything really that they could afford. And this massive influx of desperate buyers floods the lower end of the market, which instantly inflates the prices of the few remaining budget options left on the lot.
It's a brutal game of musical chairs. People are running away from $70,000 luxury SUVs to buy small sedans just to save a buck.
Right.
But by doing that en masse, they are making the small sedans dramatically more expensive. The chairs are getting pricier every time the music stops.
That is exactly how the economics are playing out. Though, it's crucial to point out a major blind spot in this specific data set.
What's that?
Well, these figures track advertised asking prices, the number slapped on the windshield. What this doesn't answer is what the final out-the-door transaction prices actually look like once the customer sits down in the finance office.
Oh, right. Because then you have to endure the brutal dealership negotiations, factor in fluctuating interest rates, and roll negative equity into their trade-ins.
Exactly. The advertised price is just the starting line.
I'm looking at these prices and thinking, if I'm a local dealer, I must be terrified that nobody can actually afford my inventory. Like, how are they moving these vehicles? Who is actually managing the battlefield at the retail level?
Well, that takes us directly to the dealership showrooms. And the landscape there is transforming just as radically as the factory floor. I was scrolling through some tracking data from the Dealership Guy weekly roundup, and it paints a picture of aggressive survival tactics.
What are they doing?
Dealerships are undergoing massive corporate consolidation. But more importantly, they are relying heavily on their service lanes to stay afloat. And that is effectively masking the reality of softening retail sales on the showroom floor.
The sheer scale of the corporate takeover they track is wild. The mom-and-pop local dealer is getting swallowed up by massive automotive groups.
Yeah, the independent lots are vanishing.
And the focus on service lanes, what the industry calls fixed operations, is fascinating. The repair bays, the multi-point inspections, the desperate push for technician retention, these are the new lifeblood of the dealership.
Because they aren't just selling you a car anymore. They're fighting to lock you into a decade of maintenance.
They have to, right? Because the margins on new cars are so incredibly volatile.
Exactly. And dealers are also using their collective lobbying power to fight against direct-to-consumer EV models, like the ones being proposed by Scout Motors.
Oh, they hate the direct-to-consumer model.
They're fighting tooth and nail to keep the traditional franchise model alive. And behind the scenes, these newly consolidated mega dealers are leaning heavily on artificial intelligence to dominate search engine visibility. They're hoping to capture whatever remaining buyer intent is out there before a competitor does.
It really feels like an arms race. And the Dealership Guy Roundup tracks these grassroots shifts closely. They actually made a point of highlighting a specific entrepreneur, Andre Willis, acquiring his very first franchise dealership.
Yeah, I saw that.
It stands out as a major milestone precisely because it is happening amidst this giant, suffocating wave of corporate consolidation. It's becoming incredibly rare for an independent operator to break into this space.
The implication for you, the consumer, is profound. Your buying and servicing experience is no longer a local, community-driven relationship with a dealer who knows your family.
Right, it's corporate.
It is being dictated by massive, highly optimized retail algorithms looking to extract margin anywhere they can find it, whether they're squeezing you in the finance office or upselling you in the repair bay.
But the open question this dealership archive leaves us with is the endgame. Will this massive dealership consolidation eventually lead to better, streamlined pricing for the consumer through corporate economies of scale?
Or will it just give these mega dealers monopoly-like leverage to keep prices artificially high in regional markets?
Exactly.
And honestly, history strongly suggests the latter, especially when you look at where the entire automotive industry is making its real, reliable money right now.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Because if new cars cost an average of nearly $52,000 and dealerships are hyper-focused on their repair bays as profit centers, that forces a very obvious consumer behavior.
We are all keeping our current cars much, much longer.
We have to. And that rapidly aging fleet of cars on the road has turned the aftermarket parts industry into an absolute gold rush.
We're seeing literal billions of dollars moving to capitalize on this aging fleet. Bloomberg had this wild report detailing how O'Reilly Automotive is pursuing a potential deal to buy Genuine Parts Company's NAPA Auto Parts business.
And this isn't some minor corporate restructuring.
Not at all. It is a massive cash bid that could value the NAPA business at $10 billion or more. To give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, the NAPA unit generates over $15 billion in annual sales.
Wow. $15 billion.
Across 10,000 global locations. And the reason this is even on the table is that Genuine Parts is looking to shed its automotive arm entirely to focus purely on its industrial business, known as Motion.
According to the Bloomberg reporting, if this mega deal goes through, it would be O'Reilly's largest acquisition since they bought CSK Autocore way back in 2008.
Think about the market trajectory this reveals. High upfront vehicle costs are directly fueling these mega mergers in auto repair.
Because the corporate giants know that consumers are entirely trapped.
Exactly. You can't afford a $52,000 new car, so you have to maintain your 10-year-old vehicle. The parts industry is where the real, reliable, long-term money is being made.
But again, there is a huge limitation in just reading the corporate reporting here. What isn't clear from a Bloomberg financial summary is the collateral damage to the everyday driver.
Right, the person actually buying the parts.
Yeah. Will a $10 billion mega merger reduce competition in local markets? Like, if I am holding on to my car for an extra 5 years just to avoid financing a new one at high interest rates, does this merger mean I'm just going to get squeezed by a corporate monopoly on the price of brake pads and alternators instead?
That is the exact tension at the heart of this entire ecosystem. When you look at this whole picture, from the factory floor all the way to the aftermarket parts counter, it all points to a few undeniable realities for the consumer.
Let's pull those threads together.
First, we're seeing intense strategic hedging. Automakers aren't fully committing to one single future. They are deliberately balancing their legacy gas vehicles with EV experiments.
Which we see clearly supported by both the Ford turnaround data, right, where they balance EV tech with fixing legacy combustion engines.
Yes, and the rapid, erratic product shifts tracked in the car and driver updates.
Nobody's putting all their chips on electric, and nobody's putting them all on gas.
Exactly. Second, we're seeing affordability dictate human behavior. Consumers are actively fleeing to cheaper vehicle segments.
Which ironically drives those budget prices up.
Right. And because they're priced out, they're holding onto their cars significantly longer. The record asking prices data showing the spike in compact sedans, combined with the massive $10 billion valuation of the NAPA parts business, both of those validate this reality.
And the third major theme is massive retail consolidation. The businesses selling and fixing the cars are getting bigger and more corporate just to protect their margins in a volatile environment.
Yeah, the buy-sell acquisition wave in the dealership guy reports and the O'Reilly-Napa merger talks, they show a massive concentration of power at the retail level.
But these themes also surface some violent contradictions in the market. The first contradiction is technological.
How so?
Well, you have the wider industry's aggressive push toward high-tech, screen-heavy, highly automated vehicles, like we saw in the industry updates dropping brake pedals.
Right.
But that clashes directly with the reality of soaring repair complexity and the massive billion-dollar legacy recall costs we saw in the Ford data. We want these cars to be spaceships, but the data shows we literally can't afford to fix the spaceships when they inevitably break.
That is a fascinating point. I see a purely financial contradiction, too. You have strong headline sales figures and massive corporate acquisitions happening at the dealership level.
Which makes the industry look incredibly healthy on paper.
Exactly. But that directly contradicts the plunging affordability metrics from the asking price records, which show that the everyday middle-class buyer is drowning and being pushed entirely out of the market.
Yeah.
The corporations are thriving while the consumer is suffocating.
So what is the practical takeaway from all of this data?
If you are a card owner or planning to be one, you have to fundamentally change your financial calculations. The cost of entry, the sticker price on the lot, is only half the battle.
You must budget heavily for long-term maintenance.
Right. Because right now, both new vehicle prices and rapid parts industry consolidation are conspiring to make long-term ownership significantly more expensive.
It really changes how you look at the whole process. The car market is clearly no longer just about horsepower 0 to 60 times or that new car smell.
Not at all.
It is a high-stakes financial ecosystem where keeping your old car running is becoming just as fiercely competitive and corporatized as buying a new one. Next time you drive past a gleaming mega dealership or pull into the parking lot of your local auto parts store, I want you to ask yourself, in this new ecosystem, who is really profiting from the miles on your odometer? Thanks for joining us for this exploration on Auto News Talk.